should have viewing rights. I'm Ed Schenken, the Rotary Club San Francisco 2 International Vice President, and you also have Eric Schmautz, who you know very well. I'm going to pass it to Eric to introduce you, and thank you so much for joining us, Eric.
Awesome.
And everybody probably knows Eric is a former district governor here in California, and he was president previously of San Francisco Rotary Club. He's also the leader of our Accelerator program, which this is the first of the discussions. Take it away, Eric.
Yeah, it feels odd. It's almost 15 years ago that I was president of the club. But I see a few people on the call that have been presidents of their club 3 times and one soon to be 4th time. Hey, you're not supposed to give yourself away with that laugh. But thanks everyone for joining. And we gave a quick update on Ukraine before you joined, Sarah. Lots of thoughts headed that way right now, and Rotarians looking for ways that they can efficiently and effectively sort of support what's happening with the refugee status and in Ukraine. For those that don't know, Sarah comes from the Millennium Challenge Corporation, and we have several other Rotary staff that come from MCC, and so you know, she's certainly in good company with some of the people that have joined Rotary and made really significant change in our organization. Sarah heads up programs of scale. If you'll remember, several years ago, the Rotary Club of San Francisco, in partnership with several Rotary clubs in Washington State, did the second of a series of global grants around malaria. And so we took the Eastern District of Zambia, Chapata, and with support from the Gates Foundation, World Vision, Rotary, and others, were able to do this project. Coming out of that project, we started an organization called Rotary Malaria Partners, where I was one of the founding board members. And that program ultimately went to be our first program of scale. And Sarah today, as the Rotary Club of San Francisco is starting to think through, you know, our unique position in San Francisco and Silicon Valley, with technology and, you know, financial resources, what role can we play to help make and bring together, you know, the right minds, the right people, the right resources to make Rotary projects move faster, at least those Rotary projects that are scalable. And Sarah is just in the process of, you know, further defining, you know, the second round of programs of scale. And so she has a good purview of, you know, almost 50 projects that are promoted by different Rotary clubs and districts that are potentially scalable. So she has a good purview of what we're looking at and the types of programs that might be out there that could use a little bit of a boost, even if they don't necessarily become a program of scale awardee this year. It's one of the few programs of Rotary that is a competitive program. So it's really significant, and one of the I was going to say brainchild, but you know, Ravi Ravindran, who you know, was very close to the club and who I participated on when we were initially looking at the areas of focus back in the early 2000s. You know, was a big champion of this program. So, and Sarah came to Rotary to help spearhead this. So with that introduction, Sarah, let me turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. And I have whatever can help the most. I have a few slides that I can share, but also really want this to be a conversation and you to be able to ask as many questions and share ideas as possible. As Eric said, we are in the final stages of making a recommendation on the second Programs of Scale Award to the Rotary Foundation trustees. But we do get to see the best best of the best and work with a select number of programs that have gone through the entire Programs of Scale process, but do not receive the $1 $2 million award. And so in this case, this year, we have 2 fantastic programs that will not be receiving the Programs of Scale award, but are ready to move on in some capacity with their implementation, have mobilized all of their partners, have mobilized in-kind and co-funding, and are going to be anxious to find different pathways to support their strong programming and commitments that they have made to positive change on the ground. So this conversation is absolutely the type that I love to have. And so maybe I can just very quickly go through, so we all start with a baseline understanding of Programs of Scale and then move on to just share ideas and thoughts on this. So is everything visible now? Good?
Yes. Perfect.
Wonderful. So I'd like to just start off with even the tagline of Programs of Scale, because I think it's really important to really separate what is a program of scale. And if you're thinking in even investment terms, we have a level of evidence that something works, it is ready to grow, and it's strengthened by bringing the right organizations and actors on the ground to make that growth possible. Programs of Scale was created with this overarching vision that there are members who are ready to move to the next level, grow beyond our global grants. As Eric shared, the malaria program had gone through a series of global grants and really had proof partners and the right level of commitments on the ground. But it's also a way for Rotary writ large to bring in new partners and have scalable programs that can help inform what Rotary unites around post-polio, which is very exciting also, in that we hope to be celebrating globally an amazing feat and really understanding why and how Rotarians participated in eradicating the world of a major disease is also lessons that we can bring into other problems, other issues that are faced globally. Again, this started a while back and came to fruition finally about 2 years ago when the first Programs of Scale grant competition was announced. And it's really a program that has grants, but we want to be sharing learning, knowledge, lessons learned for all projects everywhere across our areas of focus, and also utilize Programs of Scale to build an even stronger external reputation with future partners, future funders, future members, and maintain our status as a premier global service organization. A Program of Scale grant supports a longer term program. These are designed as 3 to 5 years in implementation, based in something that has already proven to work. It has to be locally relevant and so tailored to the local needs of the populations with a growth mindset. The theory of change of how the problem will be solved with evidence needs to be very strong and have really strong evidence systems and monitoring systems, results, KPIs associated for tracking the positive change, and also a collaborative learning system so that this knowledge is not just held with Rotary members and implementing partners, but with local and national governments, other NGO partners, other private sector entities that can support positive scaling. And very, very, very critical to Programs of Scale and all Rotary programming is the unique strengths of Rotary need to be demonstrated through the program. This shouldn't be something that anyone could come in and fund or implement This really demonstrates the best of what it is to be a Rotarian and Rotary. It is a competitive grant process with 2 stages, a call for concept notes and an invitation for full proposals, and with 1 annual award at this point in time. And the program review criteria that we apply to every concept and full proposal that comes in is its readiness to scale, if it's built for sustainability, if it will promote learning across the Rotary world, and if it will represent Rotary, not just from we expect positive stewardship, but how will it demonstrate the unique strengths of Rotarians being advocates for positive change, community mobilizers, trust, and volunteerism, the spirit of volunteerism. So this year, for the second Programs of Scale cycle, we received 42 concept notes, representing over 100 Rotary clubs and districts across, around the world. All of our areas of focus, including the environment, were represented in this last round. And then Rotarians were partnering with Rotary action groups, former Peace Fellows, Interact clubs, Rotarect clubs, and really demonstrating the power of the Rotary programmatic network as well. The activity map was also global in nature. Even with 42 concept notes, we saw activity in almost every region of the world and across all of the Rotary areas of focus. And in the group that made it to the second stage of the proposal this year, so the purple is the Zambia program as our first awardee, but the teal color represents the 3 concept notes that moved on to 4 concept notes that moved on to full proposal. Unfortunately, one of our proponents was not able to move forward with their full proposal due to some global supply chain issues affecting their ability to deliver on their scaling concept. A little bit more about the Zambia program, just again for some context. The first Programs of Scale awardee is looking to reduce malaria in the target areas in 2 provinces, 10 districts, reaching 1.3 million people. In the end, it is a $6 million program, equally co-funded by Rotary Foundation, World Vision USA, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And the overall reach is training and outfitting 2,500 community health workers, 380 health facility staff, building awareness around sound malaria prevention and treatment practices, and using a data-driven approach. Each community health worker has a cell phone and a reporting system and standard that they are reporting back on their malaria test rates and referrals. So community monitoring of malaria can be better managed, as well as health facility and commodity management can work better in malaria supply chain issues in Zambia. As to date, each of the funding partners have dispersed funding into the program, and we have set up the funding to work in parity, that each partner has to be in at $1 million first to move to the next $1 million for each of the 3. World Vision is staged directly with Rotary at the 1-to-1, and the Gates Foundation is filling in between with follow-on disbursements. About 50% of the program goal has been reached thus far on community health worker training, and the team is really aligning around implementation in a very dynamic operating environment. Rotary is also now represented on the End Malaria Now Council, and we are even seeing that the Rotary Reach has led to the creation of new clubs and new members coming because of the importance of malaria in Zambia. I also like showing this slide to anyone who's willing to hear the presentation on programs of scale. These are quotes that we gathered during the interview and site visit process for programs of scale. These are both from the Rotarians engaged, but also the partners on why they work with Rotary in the space where they're working. And so I really, in particular, like that the partners see the unique value add of Rotary in addressing global issues. Finally, last but not least, we like to point people to different resources, and we continue to build out our resource base to share ideas and best practice in the scaling world. So some of you may have seen the Rotary magazine from last year, and we're working with the magazine team on another spread for this year's competition to share even more of the lessons learned and feature the programming. We also have the Programs of Scale page on My Rotary that you can look to. And we highlight that we have a grant competition handbook. We are in the process, the updated handbook should be loaded onto the website in the next week or so. And we also have in the Rotary Learning Center an Increase Your Impact Learning Center series. This was not specific only to programs of scale, but rather we brought in a global scaling expert to talk about the power of Rotary and supporting longer term positive change. And we brought in a monitoring, evaluation, and learning expert to walk Rotarians through how to use a theory of change for positive program design. So those courses are available, and they really are international experts speaking about the power of Rotary to make positive service programming. And here's a screenshot of the learning plan so you can see. We also refer many to the Scaling Up framework, which is Management Systems International has spent many years studying positive scale up, especially in the social space. And uses a framework that may look familiar to some of you in the private sector scale up space, but applying it to social issues. And they ask scaling strategy questions that are repeated in our programs of scale, concept note, and full proposal. We really push the Rotary members across the Rotary clubs and districts to think about these key questions as they are preparing their scaling plan or their implementation plan. There are other toolkits also, some more focused in the health space. Brookings Institution has one for the education space called Millions Learning. So depending on your particular area of focus that you're interested in, there are more specific resources based on those sectors as well and lessons learned. And then we would like to point everyone to the district resource network through Rotary. Utilize your international service committees, utilize your discs, utilize your Rotary action groups and your program alumni to build out best practices, networks, organizational resources. So that is the general presentation, but happy to take any questions or engage more specifically in some of your questions.
Thank you, Sarah. We just recently lost a member of the cadre that lived locally, and a few years ago we lost the Peace Center at Berkeley, both of which were, very advantageous for our club, and we took full advantage of them. Are you able to share which of the programs of scale fell out this year?
Yeah, so we happy to, and it's not, it will be more specifically released, but the one that fell out was an HPV large-scale vaccination program in Bangladesh targeting school-aged females. There was a really strong proof of concept in Bangladesh. And obviously HPV vaccination has a strong evidence base to begin with. But global supply chain issues in the HPV space, vaccine space, are very real. We had, as part of our due diligence on this program, we had conversations with UNICEF's vaccine procurement agency, and required that the Rotarians speak with the Ministry of Finance in Bangladesh, and of course with the Ministry of Health, on longer term sustainability around financing for HPV vaccination beyond program of scale. And some of those agreements were not reached in time. We do anticipate they will come back. They are very committed. So. Excellent.
No, and Gavi. Yeah, so we established a hospital in Dinajpur in northern Bangladesh. And so in keeping track of some of those doctors, I knew that they were sort of in the, in information stages, at least over the last year, pulling that together. And I didn't know if it was going to come.
Rotary Club of Rajashai. I think there's the cancer hospital there. It may be.
Well, it was actually through one of the Rotary doctors in the Dinajpur hospital that knew of the work, but didn't, wasn't directly involved.
It looks like John is asking a question in the chat. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I have to go to another meeting, but Rotary has thousands of clubs in almost every country in the world. The issue that we're dealing with that is the most pressing is the climate issue. So what is the thing that we're dealing with is getting countries to cooperate. Mm-hmm. Rotary is in a unique position to be able to leverage our position in the communities and in our countries to be able to make a difference. And I'm wondering whether you're looking at global efforts rather than just local efforts. Although the local efforts are wonderful, if we all go to hell in a handbasket because of the climate, it doesn't make a damn bit of difference.
Yeah, great question. So we were hoping to see more proposals just based off of how programs of scale is working, and then I'll answer your question from a different perspective. We are not asking for any one type of proposal. We're allowing the Rotary members to join together and make their proposals. And so if someone wanted a multi-country or global proposal that could demonstrate positive change in the time frame, then of course it would be looked at. We were hoping for more proposals from the environment. This year we only received one. So even within that 43, it was one. So I am hoping that changes for future years, and that Rotary members will be more aware of programs of scale and the ability to do longer term planning and longer term change through programs of scale. That aside, we have a new area of focus manager for the environment who I think would really enjoy having this conversation with you. He came most recently from a private foundation working solely in the environment space, and coming to Rotary and trying to work with Rotarians who want to move climate change and the climate agenda forward is definitely of interest. And so looking at that larger mobilization effort, he would love to connect with you on that. Okay,
I put my email in there and I need to go to another meeting. But I would love to have the conversation. We're currently at between 400 and 600 clubs that have committed to taking action in the climate environment in 87 different countries. And it'd be wonderful to get support from Rotary in order to be able to make it work faster.
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming to visit us. And Eric, thank you for putting this on.
Thanks, John. And I see a hand from Susan.
Thank you. I'm not sure if I'm wording this question correctly, but with all the different international grants that go on, is there any way of putting clubs together, and I'm focusing on the medical ones, you have cleft lip and palate, and then you have others doing your vaccines. Does anybody take the balcony picture and put these clubs together so that you could do both at one time?
Yeah, that's a great question also. We have not, we're in year 2. That's a great, we have thought about how to support matchmaking without without forced marriage. But I'd love to hear even more thoughts about how to do that. What we have, yeah, no, I'd love to do that. Let's just put it that way. I'd love to do more matchmaking. Where we have done more matchmaking right now is matching cadre members who have expertise in a space with clubs and districts that have a concept and need to strengthen the implementation of that concept to make it to the next stage right now. But finding a way to re-network back between clubs and districts that have common areas and common geographies, that if they work together, they could be even more impactful, because you're working with the Ministry of Health once for a multifaceted program is absolutely fantastic. And so again, I think I'd be happy to take any suggestions on how to best facilitate the matchmaking opportunities outside of the normal project fairs, which still are a one-to-one rather than a, hey, you guys should meet each other.
And that's what I was thinking. You're talking about when on a day of triage, when lots of patients come in, not everybody can have their surgery, but they could get a vaccine. That's what I'm getting at. If there's some way I can help with that, or if you let me know if there's some.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
And Sarah, if you know, areas of focus managers or showcase could play a role in that.
Yeah, so showcase, that's a great idea. I mean, posting, it's always encouraged to post your project idea or program on showcase, and that's also a way to then search and better identify which clubs or districts are focused on your area of focus. But yeah, our area of focus managers are definitely trying to look at the trends across the portfolio. We have differing sophistication of data on our portfolio, just to put it kindly. And that's something we hope to be improving a bit more over time as well. But sometimes it's really just getting the right advocates in the room and people with energy to make something happen. So I'd be happy to continue to have this conversation around positive matchmaking, even amongst clubs and districts that have already put together proposals and we see a linkage between them.
Awesome. And it looks like our next question is from Kaushal.
Hello. Thank you very much for talking with us. And clearly you have an exciting job. You could have a front row seat of what is happening the best in Rotary. So my question is that, is there a mechanism or how is there a framework? How do you work the 49, the others, you know, which doesn't get awarded? Because they're all great projects, right? You know, so that was my one question. And the second is there any way, do you also integrate or leverage external impact investors?
Okay, good questions. So this year, in the second year of implementation, we offered debriefs to all teams who did not move forward in the process. And so that was 38 teams pretty much, and 20 of them took the 45-minute to hour phone call with us. And then we provided written feedback to them on what the reviewers saw. And it's not staff reviewers, it's cadre reviewers. So we're using the expertise from technical professional Rotarians to give advice to other Rotarians, and compiling that feedback. So that's mostly what we have done. And that was new this year. We did not give specific feedback outside of the full proposal recipients last year. But the other question on working with other impact investors. This year also, I really wanted to bring in external reviewers. So we were able to bring in the Lego Foundation, Sarah Meka Foundation in Nigeria, as well as Alzheimer's Europe as reviewers for this year's finalists, with the idea that they would get to know Rotary programs, speak with Rotarians implementing directly as part of the due diligence and review process, and have a level of comfort in co-investing with Rotary in this space. The proof will be in the pudding. We're having the follow-on conversations right now to see if anyone's willing to come forward and co-fund. Moving that into the impact investment space, more specifically with those who might be seeking a financial return, might be a little bit more difficult with how the current programs are positioned. Though we did see a couple of programs that were more social enterprise development focused that could work in the impact investing space because they are seeking a financial return as part of their scaling efforts to sustainably fund their growth.
Yeah, or in some cases, they are looking for what is the methodology for measuring the impact so that they can have not necessarily the financial returns, but let's say for-profit, no dividend company, social enterprise, where it can make a great difference because they become a smart investor to grow and they take it global.
Yeah, so one of our finalists this year is partnered with a social enterprise, and so there could be an opportunity there. And then I have, just off the top of my head, there were 2 or 3 that were pretty strong, and I anticipate will come back in future years that are more social enterprise models. Again, because we're looking at sustainable growth too. Right. That either relies on sustained public sector funding or sustained private growth. Right. So that pathway to sustainability we should be seeing more that have an actual enterprise return.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Sarah?
I have a question for you.
Shoot.
Oh, sorry. I saw another hand go up.
Yeah. Oh, David. Yeah. And then Deirdre.
Thanks, Sarah. This may be a little premature, but I'm curious. You have area focus managers, and who would be the person in the education field?
Yeah, unfortunately, we had a fantastic person in the education field, and she just moved on to another organization. So we're in the process of recruiting right now, but happy to have a follow-on conversation because we do have, some strong leadership both at the cadre level and connections with the Rotary Action Group, the Bell Action Group too. So there are people who are focusing on education while we're in the process of recruiting a replacement there.
Okay, so I'll have a note coming in to you or the team at some point.
Yes, thank you.
Deirdre.
So what is it that you're looking from us in terms of support, and is there a certain amount of money, or I don't know, participate? What you're doing is great, but I'm just curious as to what you're looking for.
Well, is this for me or for
me?
You and the team that are working on this?
No, that's a great question. So I am not, I should never use an opportunity like that question to not have an answer for you, but I don't have a direct ask of you all that's specific. My general ask is just always promoting thoughtfulness and programming and support for each other. I think kind of what Susan brought up is how do we all work together to maximize and make the best programs humanly possible? Because while it's exciting that this is a grant competition, it's really, at the end of the day, it's picking a program that will have the best, most achievable impact in the time frame. Understanding $2 million can feel like a lot of money, but in the space of global development, it's a drop in the bucket. So what's going to be the most positioned to not just have an effect in the time frame, but also show and demonstrate what positive action can mean and will be sustained. So I think the idea of programs of scale is really thinking big, thinking future, doing that in incremental steps, and knowing that we can all learn from each other no matter what area of focus is there, because it's Rotary-led sustainable programming that demonstrates the best of what it means to advocate for positive change, to use the trust that we build in communities to make sure that behavior change actually happens, which is the hardest thing ever, as we all know, even in ourselves, but with others, and be promoting really strong project design, and then mobilizing those who want to have our shared values and systems and want to come along with us to solve the problems. So really, I think huge success will come if we can have more of the programs of scale where we really are mobilizing $6 million for the problem, not just $2 million from the Rotary Foundation, but others are coming along because they see the power of working with Rotary on this change. So supporting the programs of scale that are selected in the ways that we can, through sharing, connecting, learning. But my question back to you all is, you have an idea of serving as an accelerator in this space, and how can I help you be effective in doing that?
Excellent. And I think I can at least start with that, and I will in part answer Deirdre's question and yours as well, Sarah. So the things that we are looking for as far as our Accelerator project are those things that maybe aren't fully baked to where Sarah might be able to invest in them, but where an expertise, a resource, a technology could truly make a great idea into a broad, scalable project. And can we find those people, those resources, that piece that may not already be a part of the project to make it grow both in its scale, scope, and impact beyond what the people currently working on the project have the ability to do. So, you know, if we can do that a few times, where we can create sort of maybe a little piece or a chip to a project, but it makes the project where it's truly able to have a broader impact, that's where I think we're trying to come in. We're not necessarily trying to fund. We're not necessarily trying to otherwise make a project into something that it's not. But if the people really have the desire and we can figure out some way to help them, it's our ability to try to do that.
Yeah, that's great. The piece where I think universally, and it's not always the lack of skill set or interest, but it's the ability to really think about, again, one of the huge strengths of the Zambia program is their real-time monitoring system. And that is a more universal need across the board around integrating technology in the right way to monitor project success and create those feedback loops to adjust the project real time. So there are some great open source systems in this space, but helping Rotarians build that into their implementation. So they're monitoring, learning, sharing feedback, adjusting implementation over the 3 to 5 years in a way that makes a lot of sense. And that not just Rotary, though I have an interest in getting good data too, but that we have real data for decision-making and support, and data speaks volumes when you're mobilizing partners. You cannot just say, we did it and we did a great job. We did it and this is what happened and we know why. So supporting Rotarians across the board, across matching their passion and interest in networks and partnership to strong data is always of interest, always. And I think everyone benefits from that. It doesn't matter your area of focus, it doesn't matter your place, what area of the world you are operating in, but think about being investors without data.
I have a question, Eric.
Shoot, Ed.
Yeah. So, Sarah, there were 4 that didn't get the award. Could you briefly mention, what they were, or what some of the other interesting projects were, just in brief? And then, like you said, $2 million is a drop in the bucket. We have thousands of clubs. $2 million is not a lot of money across Rotary International, as you know, but it's a lot, to help these projects. So, when you saw 4 that didn't get funded, is there any reason, Rotary couldn't just, get together, raise another 2 for, these 4 runners up, if they were real contenders, and, maybe just sort of speak to that? Because, Rotary could have done all 40. We're a big enough club internationally if we really wanted to, because like you said, $2 million is a drop in the bucket. So sure. Just sort of speak to that. Like, how could you go broader and really do more of these? And is that where you'll go?
Yeah, I don't want to speak on behalf of everyone, but I've been personally surprised. This is my personally surprised that we aren't funding more than 1 at a time, though I think I'm more aggressive and ambitious, and I see the value of all of these programs. But I think there's still a level of need for proof of concept that we can get a few of these competitions. There's sufficient demand. This is seen positively in the Rotary world as an effective use of TRF funds, that we have good stewardship over, that we are actually creating the positive change, positive measurable change that is demanded through the program. But like I said, I brought in external reviewers this year because I wanted to push both. It's great to have external technical expertise, but I wanted to push a little bit and say, well, they're willing to match us. Are we willing to go on this one too? Because I'm really pleased with the quality of the programming, and that's not a purely Rotary viewpoint, that's an international development experience viewpoint. We assemble amazing partners. We assemble the best of what civil society action looks like in a country when we are really putting our minds and mouths to our passion. So I think that's just amazing. So in the future, I would love to see more of these amazing programs funded. There is the wind blowing in the other direction of a lot of people get no's and they'll go back to the global grant space, and that's a non-competitive process, and there's less, they get to do their project and Rotary gets out of their hair. And so that's just, we're going to have to continue to fight and demonstrate why this is very effective use of
and did you see that?
Resources.
Did a bunch of them go the global grants and actually,
Many of them come from global grants and a series of global grants. And we try to say that these are the group that they've now graduated from global grants and they're ready to go even bigger. And then you do see people go back into global grants and break their projects into 3 pieces and start doing the club match for DDF, and all of the programs of scale doesn't have a DDF requirement because our goal is really focus on the programming, not around the and in the external fund development rather than the Rotary fund development side. Both have their benefits because global grants allows clubs to meet each other, understand, trust each other, and then build out the next programming. So my goal would be in the next 2 or 3 years, we have a better on-ramp and off-ramp between our global grants program and programs of scale, but we are also funding more than one program of scale.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to add another perspective to that, one program of scale award could equal as many as 80 global grants. And so, you know, as you talk about the Rotarians that are funding TRF and making contributions to the World Fund, you know, there has to be, for the Rotary organization to work, a certain, you know, ability for that global grant process to go on. So as we hit the 2.025 billion by 2025, build our endowment, build our resources, build our partners, I think all of those things that are a part of programs of scale also makes programs of scale then able to propagate into additional awards. I suspect that visibility and things that Sarah's talking about with some of the partner funding organizations.
Yeah, that's right. The goal really is build and share, not that larger is better, but larger can, in some cases, build longer term commitments and higher visibility from partner organizations that we are ready to go in bigger with them on some key topics. So I think it's how do we use the awards as wisely as possible.
And you can think of a lot of the global grants as sort of those angel dollars to start.
Definitely. Oh, definitely. That's why I want to build better on-ramps and off-ramps between global grants and programs of scale to really help people stage what they are. I mean, the Rotary clubs and districts that are engaged in global grants are already highly passionate and very committed. And we see a series, as Eric, you talked about, a series of global grants over time, and they're ready to move to the next level because they have all of the institutional commitments lined up. They know how to do the programming and they're ready to move. So
awesome. We are at the top of the hour and I don't see any other hands. So I'm thinking this is a good time for us to say thank you to Sarah for her participation. Several folks on the call are from our district international committee. And so I just wanted to share with you in the next week or so, we should have an announcement out for our scheduled time with Ryan Rowe. Ryan is with the Hand Wash organization, a former Peace Fellow, fantastic story of his own right, but also the work that's happening in Hand Wash in Haiti. It's something that I think we can learn from, especially as they're working through some of the pieces to truly make a successful implementation down there. What are they looking for? They don't have it necessarily all figured out yet. And so he'll share with us a little bit of where there may be an opportunity there. So with that said, anything else, Ed? Let me turn it back over to you.
Can you hear me, Eric?
Yeah.
So I would say thank you, Eric, for hosting. Sarah, thank you very much for taking time out of your day to join us. And we will continue this Accelerator program. There will be a series of discussions like this everybody should look for. We'll announce them as they come. And our next one will be in the upcoming couple weeks. So you'll hear from us. Thank you again, Sarah. Thank you, Eric. And I'll say good afternoon to everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.